I am currently in a parking lot by a road getting ready to go for a hike. I'm gonna hike, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at saying this one, Oandicon Falls. It's like one that I can't really spell either, like I just can't remember what the actual syllables are. But last time I hiked it was in the winter. There was like 2-3 feet of snow, so I'm excited to see what it looks like now that it's like officially summer. Mid-June, that's summer, not spring, right? Anyways, this is a like little under 3 mile round trip. I remember it being kind of hard in the winter, mostly because like, I don't know, walking through snow is hard. We weren't really like post holing. We were definitely working, you know? But I remember it being like really just gorgeous in the winter, like way cool. It was probably, we were in the Keweenaw last time for just like 2 days. Yeah, just a weekend, because I like up until now I've been working a full-time job. Not up until now. I worked full-time as an editor for Paddling magazine over the winter, basically from like October, September until now, and now I'm down to part-time again. And before that I've just been like freelancing and working as an outdoor guide. Anyways, but that's why it was a weekend trip working with like a normal like 9-to-5 style job. And I remember it being really beautiful. Oh, Trillium! Check this out. Anyways, here's the trail in the winter for comparison. As you can see, it's like pretty well packed, but there was a significant amount of snow. Just beyond the falls on this hike, you're going to reach a bridge. You're going to want to go across the bridge to get the best view of the waterfall. See all those tiny black dots down there? I'll zoom in. Look at all those tadpoles. It's pretty crazy. Nice, warm, not moving river water, super shallow. There's got to be like hundreds of them. So you're going to reach the edge of the bridge, and instead of turning left on the NTC, you're going to turn right. You're going to walk carefully because there's roots. You'll follow the trail, and you'll end up back here in a little cave behind the falls. One of my favorite spots, like, I don't know, maybe like one of my favorite spots in Michigan easily. And here's the same spot in the winter, all covered in ice, super dramatic and really cool. I really love living in a place with such dramatic seasons. It feels like each place has so many moods, and it's been really fun getting to know how these different places and waterfalls look in each season. After crossing over the bridge, I headed upstream to check out the upper falls, which are a lot smaller, but probably still worth a detour if you're out hiking. Overall, Oandicon Falls is one of my favorite waterfalls in the Upper Peninsula, and it's totally because you can get behind the waterfall. After finishing up my hike, I checked into a comically large hotel room for one person. This trip was hosted by Visit Keweenaw with the goal of creating content for Instagram, which means I spent my mornings on the trail and evenings at the hotel desk, processing photos, videos, and answering emails, which sounds kind of like a grind, but it's super fun. I grabbed a breakfast pasty and ate it at Haven Falls and got swarmed by gnats. Then I headed up to Mount Baldi, or Lookout Mountain near Eagle Harbor, which is a 6-mile round-trip hike that, aside from the length, I would say is pretty beginner-friendly. And it's one of the few northern bald ecosystems in northern Michigan. Balds are like treeless areas at high elevation that are pretty common in places like the Appalachians, much less so in Michigan. First glimpse of Lake Superior, but I fear there's still like a half mile of uphill. Eagle Harbor. There she is. Here we're about 730 feet above the lake. Overall, I thought Mount Baldi was a super cool hike. It would be gorgeous at sunrise or sunset, and it's totally doable with a headlamp. The footing's not super bad. I only saw one other group out here. It reminded me a lot of a hike I did in the Appalachian Trail I didn't hike the whole thing, but a segment that I did at the Roan Highlands, which is another bald ecosystem, and super similar to this, except with the Lake Superior view. Reminded me a lot of like Pincushion Mountain in Grand Marais or the Porcupine Mountains, which are also both great Lake Superior hikes. One thing I will say about Mount Baldi is you can actually drive the Brockway Mountain Scenic Drive and get comparable, perhaps better views, for example, like this one, and then there's just like a bunch of views along the way, so you don't have to do the 6-mile hike. So my first ever solo trip, like ever, was to the Keweenaw 7 years ago, and I had just finished up my first summer kayak guiding, and I was really, really excited to exercise my newfound bravery. And being up here again by myself 7 years later, thinking about how different my life looks now, was really kind of just like a great experience. The life I have now is one that I really badly wanted back then, and I think it's cool that the last 7 years of work of writing my blog and building my portfolio have amounted to being able to do like this kind of thing for work almost full time. Back in my early 20s, I was also just more self-conscious of being alone. I didn't want to go out to eat alone. I thought people would stare. I didn't like to hike alone. Even just walking on the beach alone seemed like a big task. And now I've really come to enjoy my own company, which is something I did not do in my early 20s. I even booked a solo sunset sauna session alone at Taka Superior, which was, well, you can see it's a crazy beautiful setup. I used to work as a sauna guide, and I'll be honest, I'm actually not all that into sauna. It's fun to do like once a quarter and more fun with friends than solo. I did the other Taka sauna in Portage with a bunch of friends when I was in the Keweenaw last winter, and it was extremely fun. But I just never imagined I would do something like that solo, but sometimes there's just not anyone to go with. Sometimes you want to do something and all you have is your own company, and I've sort of realized that it would really be a shame to let my inability to appreciate my own company stop me from doing the things that I want to do. So I booked the solo sauna session because it was something I wanted to do and because I sort of needed to do it as part of the project for Visit Keweenaw, and it was actually so great. The feeling of swimming off your sweat in Lake Superior is always incredible, but swimming off like that good, clean sweat from the sauna is even better. I also didn't have high hopes for sunset. I've been having like the lousiest weather and conditions luck lately when it comes to things like that, but the universe decided I was due for a win because, wow, I hung around to see if the sunset would go down with a flash of green. It did not. Did not. I met a ranger in the Apostle Islands once who swore she's seen it a few times from Manitou Island, and I'm actually pretty sure Andy and I saw it go down with a flash of green on the west coast when we were in Olympic once, but maybe next time. It's like one of those things I'm very interested in watching for. The first solo trip I took to the Keweenaw was in 2018, and I had planned to paddle from Bay de Gris Bay to Montreal Falls, but I chickened out. I was a first-year sea kayak guide, and while I'd paddled solo before, it still made me nervous, and it was a little bit choppy that day, so I decided not to go. This time, though, there was barely a ripple in the water, and I felt like a total badass pulling my boat down from my roof rack myself. It's about 12-ish miles out to the falls and back. There's, I think, like 2 sea arches, a handful of really cool sea stacks, and then the water's really clear, and looking down, there's a lot of cool rocks beneath you as well. Check out the arch behind me. I got super lucky. It turned out to be a really, really calm day out on the lake. Like, unusually so. But, it did rain on me, but the nice thing about... Ooh, focus is weird. Nice thing about the rain is that, you're already getting wet if you're kayaking. This sea stack in particular was really cool, and the whole paddle kind of reminded me of like some of the dramatic scenery that I had paddled with in the Pacific Northwest. Honestly, my favorite part of living on Lake Superior is getting to experience places like this and appreciate the region for everything that it has to offer. It's a different kind of beautiful than the Pacific Northwest, and a lot more subtle, like the orange starburst lichen and the clear blue water that you can see for 30 feet down, eagles and thick carpets of moss and the spiky boreal forest, hidden waterfalls that rush in a lake so big and cold that they icebox an entire region, and it's coastal, but this like true edge of the map sort of beauty that like I think it speaks to me in a way that mountain peaks just don't. After paddling, I went to go check out the Delaware Mine site, which is a historic site chronicling like mining, both prehistoric, like several thousand years ago, indigenous mining, up to some of the more recent, like 1800s mining, including this like kind of interesting spot where you can see the trees are like growing into an old structure. I will be writing an article at some point about the prehistoric indigenous mining, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It's super interesting. The last thing I did was I tested out these Vask hiking boots, these like vintage Vask hiking boots that I found online used. And I'm like, oh, they're super cute. They're in my size. Like, let's just see. They gave me blisters within like a mile and a half. I think I can save them. I think I can break them in, but we'll certainly see. And I took this last video right before I left. I just think it's kind of funny. I always post these really like aestheticized versions of life on Instagram, and this is like what the packing process for a trip like this looks like. I'm getting ready to leave for the Keweenaw Peninsula, and my partner Andy, he works as a sea kayak guide, like manager type thing at an outfitter, and so he's running guide training this week. And this is what our dining room is used for this time of year. That's like actually mostly my stuff, but yeah, things always look really aesthetic on social media, and They definitely don't here.